Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's WEConnect International webinar. My name is Maggie Berry, and I'm the Executive Director for WEConnect International in Europe, and I'm delighted that you're listening into today's webinar, Is AI Hype, or Will It Transform Your Business? Our presenter today is Angela Hood. She's the CEO of ThisWay Global, a WEConnect International certified women-owned business. They're an HR tech company that was founded and incubated at the University of Cambridge in the UK, and Angela is a recognised thought leader on the topic of AI in the new world of work, and she has recently been shortlisted for the Women in IT US Awards. AI is transforming the way that we live and work, but most people aren't sure what AI truly is. So in this webinar, Angela is going to share with us how to both define and quantify AI, how to identify and manage risks associated with AI, and how to identify where return on investment and competitive advantage can be realized with lightweight AI strategies and the potential competitive advantages you can gain with AI if used correctly. So Angela, thank you so much for presenting for us today. I'm going to pass the presenter right over to you so that we can start. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Maggie. I really appreciate the opportunity for you asking ThisWay to present, because I think it's such an important topic right now. And our goal is to not just help enterprise and corporate companies, but also to help our fellow Weebies, because our own company uses AI every day and we found great benefit in it. So I hope this is really helpful. I'm going to start the slideshow. So can everyone see? Maggie, can you confirm you can see AI transformational or Mike?
I can. Yes, the slides are working perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. So you've got my contact information there. It's always easiest to email me if you have questions after the presentation. I'm certainly happy to help everyone. But our goal today is to try to help you understand what AI is and just exactly what it says. Is it transformational or is it just hype? And part of it, to be honest, is it's both. So I'm going to go through how to evaluate AI. And by AI, most people mean artificial intelligence. But I'm going to explain what I think AI is in just a second. What are the benefits of AI and why now? And I don't know, you cannot pick up a paper or be watching Bloomberg and they're not talking about AI every single day. So obviously it's in the forethought of every business leader, no matter what the size of your business is. So first, I think it's important to define what transformation is. And if you've been through change training, you may know the difference between change and transformation, but we learned a lot of people don't. So the way we proceed is, let's talk about what transformation is, let's talk about what AI is, and then we can talk about, is AI going to enable your business to transform? So the first thing is, you can change without transforming. It's very important to think about your business, that are you going to do something that's going to change your business, or are you going to do something that's going to transform your business? Because that will be a difference between the type of decisions you make. Interesting enough, you cannot transform without changing. So if that makes sense for a second, you can change without transforming, but you cannot transform without change. And this is why change management has become such a big topic among enterprise customers. So again, you can change without transforming, but you cannot transform without changing. So it means you have to make a two-step commitment if you want to transform. First, I'm going to change, but my change plan is towards transforming the business in a positive way. So what is the difference between the two? Change is just doing things differently. It's a shift in your behaviors. Transforming is a new way of being. It's a shift in your core values. And I think it's important for any company of any size to sit back and say, what is the value that we're going to have fundamentally change in our business if we bring AI into it? And is that something that we want to do? Is that important? Do we dedicate a team to it? Do we dedicate adequate resources to it? Or are we just going to say we're just going to change the business a bit by using a bit of AI? So the difference is very much, change is, you've got hamburgers, that's what you were eating, or maybe you were eating a lot of fish and chips, and now you're starting to eat more fruit and vegetables, you're eating healthier, you're feeling better. That's change, it's great. we should all be doing more of it probably. But transformation is this. It is taking a body that was maybe overweight, maybe having some health issues, and now they're slim and trim and fit. That is transformation, because that's an entire different way of living, and they transformed who they are. And I think that what most companies want is most companies want to be able to transform into a more profitable, more diverse organization, but oftentimes what we end up doing is we take steps towards change. We just think if we stop eating or start eating better, then the transformation will happen, and that's not actually what works. So where are you headed? The representation of change in the past has been fax machines. I put job boards in here because we are an HR tech company, and when job boards came onto the scene where you could see a list of jobs through the internet, it was actually really important. It changed the way people hired and changed the way people found jobs. APIs are a technological advancement that's happened and become very popular in the last 2 to 3 years, and fundamentally it ties two different pieces of software together in a way that's fairly seamless. One of the biggest API companies is called Zapier. It's Z-A-P-I-E-R. So if you want to go look at their website, you can find out a little bit more about APIs. But it did change the way a lot of companies do business technologically. Transformation would be more like when we went from print to digital media, or the advent of a smartphone. That is fundamental. Like if you can imagine, or if you can remember when we folded out a big map, and we would try to figure out where we were on the map, and we'd look at the key, and we tried to figure out how we were going to get there, and where was the place that we were going to go, and we didn't have any method to find out if there was going to be a delay. Everything, you just had to kind of go and hope it worked out. And we don't have to do that anymore because we have Google Maps as part of mobile device. And Google Maps is AI. So we use AI in our everyday life, but we just don't see it as AI because all we see is it's automated and it's digital. But email, this is a great example of, we used to think in the industry that email had transformed business, and now that we look back, most people that analyze trends like this think that actually email was a change in business. It actually was not transformational. So it was a different way for us to communicate back and forth, but we still write a letter, we still have to respond, it still goes back and forth. Maybe it was a bit more efficient at the beginning, but now most people, I think, would love for their inbox to not have quite so many emails in it. So now most people consider it to be change, not transformational. Social media is another thing that you can kind of think about. Social media has changed the way we communicate. You know, we communicate in pictures, we communicate in a certain number of characters as we do on Twitter. And that's changed, but we actually think now that social media has actually transformed the way humans communicate with each other, because now you can use social media to find a job. You can use social media to find your life partner. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And social media is this entire different platform, entire different method of communicating. And so that's sort of the difference, to give you an idea of whether or not AI is transformational or not. You can kind of use these as good measurements. So what is AI? I think this is, if you take nothing else away from this presentation, I hope you understand this part. So we use the words AI because everyone knows what they are, and it's artificial intelligence, and people confuse what artificial intelligence is with what automation is, and with what robotics is, and some other attributes I'll show you in a second. But the way I think that we should be talking about artificial intelligence is it's actually IA. It's intelligence amplification or intelligence augmentation. It's taking a human that knows how to do their job, giving them automation for the parts that math and science can do much better, and giving them relevant feedback, relevant information, business intelligence, that then the human can take away and make much better decisions with, because it's much more of an informed decision. You can also use IA to strip out biases. that we all have as humans. And this is the number one driver towards greater diversity and inclusion, is being able to remove these biases. So I think that part of the danger is we keep calling it AI, but it's actually IA. And I think it makes us as a society too comfortable with artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence can actually be bad. So what is the difference? AI is the science of getting computers to act without being explicitly programmed. So that is a technical thing that every company deals with. Did we explicitly program it to do that or not? The more important part is AI develops its own intent and goals, and it becomes autonomous and does not need human interaction. Those last two parts are the parts that I do not think that that's what we want from AI, certainly not embedded in our business. But IA is science that supports human thinking, analysis, and planning. It supports the intents and the goals of the human, and so virtually it also supports the intent and goals of your organization. And it improves the interaction between humans and computers, meaning you actually get really meaningful content. You can, again, strip away these biases that we all have by using math and science. And so IA is incredibly powerful. But in marketing speak, everything gets lumped in the same, and we call all of this AI when it really isn't. The thing that I think is important is both require a commitment of your company. They require flexibility because you've got to kind of explore with them, learn, where they're working for you and where they're not, and it absolutely requires data. I think this part is where GDPR comes in. May 1st is right around the corner. Every company is going to have to adopt GDPR policies, and I think there's going to be a lot of negatives coming from that. I know that as individuals, it probably feels like, oh great, my personal data will be sacred now, and I actually think it's going to cause a lot of complications with hiring. It's going to be much harder to find people to interview. It's going to be much harder to communicate back and forth between employers and employees. So I think we've got some challenges ahead of us. The AI landscape looks like this. So on the top left, you'll see cognitive, cybersecurity, robotic, personal assistance. So those are all the things that generally people think of as AI. It's robotics. And then down the bottom left, you have thought-controlled gaming, real-time universal translation, virtual companions. Again, what people think of when they say AI. But down the right-hand side are things that we use every day right now on our smartphone. We don't use it actively, but it's being used for our benefit. That's machine learning and deep learning, chatbots that you may have used, pattern recognition. A lot of police forces use pattern recognition to help them find criminals before things get too out of hand. And so a lot of times we don't even hear about that as a society because pattern recognition allows them to capture the criminal before they've actually done the bad deed. And this is a lot of MI5, MI6 use pattern recognition extensively. So on the right-hand side, we are protected by and use the right-hand side of this graph almost on a daily basis. But we think it's this entire big circle. Amaras law is a technical law, and it just explains that as humans, we overestimate, which is the curvy line down the bottom is kind of like what's really going on, and the dotted line on the top is what human expectations are. So when AI and technology gets started, it doesn't matter what it is, we as humans overestimate what it's going to do, and the technology usually lags behind. So it gets kind of frustrating. Then over time, what happens is the opposite. We as humans underestimate what that technology is going to provide to us, but actually the technology starts to exceed our expectations. And we are right here. So we're actually at this convergence line right now, where augmentation, the IA that I was talking about earlier, is starting to exceed the speed and intellect of what humans expect from it. And that is when things start getting really exciting, so long as you have controlled the technology correctly. I will say this, that University of Cambridge has an extensive board that sits in, their entire mission is to monitor AI and to put together an ethical plan for companies like ours so that we can follow it. And there is a lot more self-monitoring of AI exploration than everyone probably thinks. I think most companies that have the intellect to be able to put together an AI platform are also smart and intelligent and understand that it needs to be controlled, and we need to be part of that plan. We're starting to get to where we have fully automated technology, and that's where you really see AI, which is up here on the right-hand side. Google Maps is a great example of Google Maps is probably in here somewhere. So it does what you need for it to do, and it does it quite quickly, and it gives you additional information that you didn't even know you could have necessarily. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't say, hey, Maggie, we know that you're at the Parliament building, and we're going to make you go to Buckingham Palace. It's not making you do that, right? So that would be complete AI. It would say, okay, Maggie, you have to go, and Maggie would go. But what Google Maps can say is, oh, if you want to get to Buckingham Palace, there's this route, there's this route, there's this route. That walk through St. John's Park, and it's prettier. And that's the kind of analysis it can give you. Maggie probably already knows that because she lives in London. But if she's in a city where she's never been before, this type of information can also keep her safe and saying, don't walk through that area of town because that area of town at night is not necessarily as safe as going 2 streets over. It may take you 3 minutes longer, but it's much safer. And that's where I see the real power of AI coming in. So the greatest challenge to using AI, and I will say this does not matter who you are, it does not matter the size of your company. If you could be a 3-person organization, or most of our customers have at least 100,000 employees. We generally deal with FTSE and Fortune 500 customers, and understanding is the #1 problem. Like, what is AI, how to use it? Financially, is typically not a problem because if a customer generally spends $200,000 or £200,000 on AI implementation, they generally save $1 million. And so the financial decision is quite easy because there's so much ROI out of it. The data is the next challenge, so, right? So it's always been a challenge because data is oftentimes not very clean. It is organized in different data silos. So most of the companies we deal with have their data in 5 different places. And one of the things we do is we bring all the data into one place and structure it for them. And then that way you can actually apply AI. So management of the data is part of the issue. GDPR will make this possibly a bigger problem, or it may mean that our data becomes cleaner because of the restrictions. So that we will have to just watch and see what happens. Regulations on AI, there's very few regulation on AI right now. More regulations are around data and data security, so that's why it's pretty low on the challenges. Common AI applications are all of these different things. They kind of look crazy if you're not used to them. But again, we use all of this technology in our smartphone today. There's predictive analytics. There is natural language processing. There's evidence-based machine learning. All kinds of cool things that are going on in the background, and you're getting benefit from it on a personal level. We benefit from more AI on a personal level than we do in our companies, which I find fascinating because the plans for the AI developers in the world was to put it into businesses first, and that's not what's happened. The individual has adopted it faster. To give you an example of the amount of investment, this was investments in just 2017, and you can see the incredible increase in investment over the last couple of years. So almost $11 billion US invested globally in 2017, and they think it may be 30 billion, maybe triple, in 2018, but obviously we don't know those numbers yet. So everyday AI, this is one thing I was talking about a moment ago, is AI in your mobile phone. So this is Cortana. If you're using a phone that has Cortana, or I use Apple phone, so I have Siri, that's an AI. AI in manufacturing is probably my favorite, because these robots are putting together a car or cars, and they adjust the torque on every nut based off of every other nut. So they have measurements of all of them, and they get the car equal, which is why our cars are tighter now. There's not little rattles like there used to be maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And people see this picture and they think, oh, this is, you know, replacing all the jobs. What's interesting is the jobs are changing. So each one of these robots has a team of 5 people that manage the robot. They clean the robot, they maintain the robot, they change its settings, they check it, they do an evaluation on it. But the robots are working 24 hours a day, basically. And there's 3 separate teams, so there's 15 people total over the entire day that work with each one of these robots. So it has not, the plant actually did not get rid of people. It just changed the roles. And this is why it's really important for individuals to continue to stay current and understand what AI is, because I feel like in 5 years from now, if you do not know what AI is and you're not comfortable with it and you don't know how to evaluate it, then I think that those are the people that might actually have a threatening positioning on their job, because technology is infiltrating every part of our life. This is a cow that has his face blurred, and the reason why is because Google image recognition thinks that this is a person. And these are some of the things that we still struggle with in the AI space. Is image recognition is typically quite good, but there's some really funny presentations if you want to search for them. You can see a dog that Google thinks is a donut, and a donut that it thinks is a dog because the dog is curled up, and so by Google imaging, it thinks it can't tell if it's a dog or a donut. Just like it can't tell if this is a person or not. This is where we get in self-driving cars. Is self-driving cars need to have optics and image recognition on them so that it understands where it can't go and what it should stop for. It would definitely stop for this cow because it thinks it's a person, but if it read it as a cow, we don't know what it would do. And so self-driving cars, I think, personally have a little bit longer development ahead of them before we actually get to start using them on a regular basis. AI in your living room. This dog's name is Eddie. This is a true story. Eddie's family has a 3-year-old. I'm sorry, a 2-year-old. And in the middle of the night, the diaper became a very smelly diaper. And so the baby comes and crawls in bed. Mom and Dad are like, oh, this is horrible. What has happened to this poor child? And goes and cleans the baby up and says, okay, everything should be fine. But the entire house still smells terrible. And they could not figure out what was going on because the baby was clean. So they walk into their lounge, and they have an iRobot, which is a little vacuum cleaner that it goes around the room. It's a Roomba, and it vacuums for you when you're sleeping. And they had set it up the night before, and Eddie the dog had pooped. And so the poop was on the floor, and Eddie decided, oh, not Eddie, but the robot decided that it wasn't doing a good job because it picked up part of the poop, and it moved it in this line over the entire house. Well, it kept spreading it, so it kept saying to itself, well, why am I not doing a great job? I need to clean more, and it just kept cleaning and cleaning and cleaning all night long, which means it spread the poo all over this white carpet. And the poor family ended up having to get rid of the carpet. It's a true story. The family posted on Facebook, and I encourage you to go to search for it because it's hysterical the way he writes it. But this is what he had to deal with. He had to clean this up, and this is a great example of AI going wrong, and that we have to think about maybe what the unintended consequences are if we just let it do its own thing and we're not monitoring it on a regular basis. So what are the benefits? And you'll notice I switched from AI to IA because I actually feel like that we as companies get greater benefits out of IA, and I think that this is the word that we should be using, or the letters that we should be using to describe it. What our company does is we take, these are all candidates for a job, these are all the attributes that the company has given us that they need for the employee to be able to do for that job. And in a matter of seconds, we can match it up and we can identify the people here that are the lighter names. These are people who are qualified, and the other people are not qualified. And then it gives a really nice, very clean ranking and scoring to say to the company, these are the best people that are the most qualified for the job. And we also are telling the individual, hey, you weren't qualified for that job, but we'll send you some other jobs that you are qualified for, that they really want to talk to you. So both are finding success. The thing I think is the most cool about it, though, is when we develop our list, it has natural diversity in it because the algorithms are debiased, and they naturally surface people of ethnicity, people that are of different genders. So maybe it's an all-male team, we'll start seeing women are top 1, top 3rd, top 5th person on the list. And this is not because we did something to make it do that. It's just that is legitimately who is the most qualified and best match for the companies. And that is the biggest reason why we have customers that are these very, very large companies, because they're seeing the ROI from having greater diversity, and they are loving it, and they want more of it. And so we're able to deliver more diverse teams to them while also saving them money at the same point. And that, I think, is our powerful value proposition to them. So if you're thinking about, okay, I think AI is pretty cool, I think it can really help me, I'm going to start trying to use the words IA when I talk to my teams about it. I think that would be helpful if each of us can start doing that more and say, let's call it IA. But what do you have to have? So true IA has huge data sets. We trained our data set on 308 million people and 45 million jobs across the globe in 39 different languages. It should improve and iterate. So over time, you should be able to give it feedback, and you should start seeing improvement in whatever it's delivering to you, whether it be data analytics or predictive analytics. It should be improving. The efficiency should be a signature efficiency, meaning it should be the type of efficiency that you want. You're saying, I want to hire people faster, or I want to find greater diversity, or whatever it is that is your efficiency that you're looking for. It should be able to do that. It should help your human team use computers better, and it should be applying science and math. If it's not doing those things, then it probably isn't IA. It's probably something else. It might be data. A chatbot just unto itself is not IA. But if it's applying data sets and it's giving you your signature efficiencies you're looking for, then it starts falling into the category of IA. The benefits of it are efficiencies at scale. So to give you an example, we can take a job and we can take 308 million people, and we can match all those people to that job in a matter of a couple of seconds. And that would take a person years to do. But on a scale of what's more normal, when an employer is looking at a stack of CVs, and let's say there's 200 CVs, and they're trying to go through them, if they're legitimately going through them and trying to make sure that they're not biased, then it generally takes them about 40 hours to go through that and to find the top, let's say, 20 candidates, and to reach out to them and try to get them to come to interview. All this is going to take between 40 and 60 hours. And for us, it takes somewhere between 2 and 8 minutes. So that's the kind of scale of efficiency you can get. You can take unstructured data and you can make it structured. If you have IA technologies, your output will be structured, though. So every time you look at some list or some piece of data, it's always going to be structured the exact same way, because then you learn how to read it much faster. You learn how to apply it, and it truly becomes business intelligence for you. And the human should find relief, and the human should find insight. This is supposed to make your job easier. If it's not doing that, then I say then there's no reason to use it. Why now? So there is way too much data just floating around. A lot of it's really noisy. It's not even that important. But to be able to sift through the massive amounts of data and find the golden coins in there. That's the hard part, but a really good IA system can do that. We are taking on technology at a rate of change that far surpasses our ability as humans to change at that same rate, and so IA helps with that. And then finally, 76% of the UK sees and uses AI daily, and this is primarily, again, in our individual life, not so much in our business life. And so we benefit from these things in our private life and after work and on the weekends. We benefit from it. But then we go into work and we wonder why we get more fatigued and work stresses us out. And it's a lot of times because we haven't applied the things that we're able to use on a personal level. So I always say, kind of the way I phrase this is, you don't want to get left behind. I think it's really important to kind of have an open mind and use the evaluation skills that we just, or the evaluation techniques that we just put in there, and apply those technologies and make your life a bit easier. So collect and store data in a clean way. Right from today is not too late. You say, oh, my old data, it looks horrible. Okay, that's fine. You can structure it later. You can use an IA system to help you. But as of today, start collecting and storing it in a clean way. Find an AI partner. We partner with companies, but there's other companies that you can talk to too that will help you kind of tip your toe into the AI or IA space and make a commitment to use it in an ethical way and in a way that helps the humans that are inside your business and also the humans that are your customers. Use it in a way that's meaningful and helpful. My view is that AI or IA has already transformed the world, and now if you let data guide how AI can transform your business, you're going to find greater ROI. And my favorite thing about it, again, is by using math and science, we actually de-bias, and you will end up with greater diversity, not just in your team, but in your data. You'll end up with greater diversity in your customer set. There's just a massive amount of benefits from it when applied correctly. So, as I said at the beginning, our company name is ThisWay Global. We do work all over the world. We have offices in the UK and in the US. We're a web and mobile application, and if you're interested in finding out any more about what we do, I'd love to hear from you. You can just email me on the email that I've shown on the screens a couple times. And Maggie, if you've got questions, I'm certainly open to answering.
Brilliant. Angela, thank you so much. That was super interesting. And I have to admit, I probably fall into the camp that, here's the term bandied about that hasn't really looked at it in the context of business at all. So that was really interesting. Thank you so much. I've got a few kind of questions that have sprung to mind as you were running through things, and I guess they almost fall into the two camps because, as you know, we've got the two different stakeholder groups. We have our women-owned businesses that we work with, who are, say, mini SMEs. Plus, we have the corporations that we work with as the corporate members. And then for many of our women-owned businesses in this region in Europe, they're operating in the professional services space. So they might be things like marketing, events, learning and development professionals, legal professionals. And whenever I think about things like AI or IA, I'm immediately thinking about tech companies. Are there certain areas of business where you think that AI is going to have more impact, or is it kind of going to be impacting all businesses?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a sector that's not affected by this type of technology. And so one of the ones I kind of didn't dive deep into, but it's natural language processing, which you often hear is called NLP. The NLP basically is technology that can read documents. So it can read medical documents, it can read legal documents, it can make semantic results out of those documents. So if you're a lawyer and you need to find something faster, it can go to the heart of thousands and thousands, 10,000 pages. It can find the places where that is. And this is not a keyword search, and that's the thing I think that people get confused about. NLP is far more powerful than any type of keywords. Okay. I think that type of technology can be apply nearly to any business that deals with a large volume of words. But in the digital space, if you're in marketing, the marketing and digital analytics that you can get from using this type of technology is incredibly powerful. You can find out, you can do analysis that used to take people months to do. You can do it in a matter of minutes if you apply the technology correctly.
Wow. So that goes back to your slide then, where you're saying about the initial investment, around on the financial side of things, actually the reaping the benefits come back really pretty quickly.
Very quickly. Most of our customers get, they're able to pay for their investment in our technology within the first 3 to 4 months. So it's not years, it's months.
Yeah, it's quicker than that. And then there was a couple of points that I wanted to ask for maybe a bit more advice, or indeed if you can point people in the right direction. If they were wanting to find a partner, I mean, you had a slide towards the end about saying, you know, we can help provide advice around that. If people wanted to find out more, and I mean, as you said, they can get in touch with you, but what would they be looking for? So say I don't know, I want to look at this, I want to think how I can, I guess, in a way, future-proof my business.
Right. Yeah.
About how this, you know, how this supports it. Where could they start? Where would they look?
Yeah. So fortunately, the UK probably has one of the robust AI communities in the entire world, and part of the reason why we launched out of the University of Cambridge. So you have an enormous amount of resources there. AI, the way it works is it converts letters to numbers, and so basically it can do it in any language. So if you've got companies and weebies that are in Europe and they're, oh, you know, we are French speaking primarily, it's not a problem, it's available. So that's one thing I think people need to not worry about. Then the next part is defining what it is in your business that's tedious, fatiguing, that you want better insights on. Once you identify that and you say, I need help with X, then you can reach out to a company like ours. You can reach out to the consultancies that have AI practices. I know a lot of weebies maybe can't afford to work with PwC, but PwC has an entire AI team that we work with. So there are entities all across the globe that have special teams that do AI consulting. Yeah. But I think the first step is you've got to figure out where the fatiguing parts are that you want fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you? You briefly touched on the impact on jobs. It was your example around the manufacturing piece, and actually in that scenario, the implementation of AI had not had a negative impact on actual total employment. Thinking about the next generation coming through, I mean, are there areas where we should be saying to our kids, like, you need to be doing this? These are the kind of topics and subjects that you need to be looking at in terms of study, and you know, and because this will, you know, it will have an impact on the world of work, and actually what humans need to be doing, the job, you know, those manual jobs building the cars, they're changing and morphing, and you know, what are the skills areas that future work generations need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I think it's going to disrupt education at a level that probably hasn't happened since the last industrial revolution. We still need the degree plans. We still need people to go out and have a university degree. We still need that. But we also need a lot more people, and I think this is where the youth really come, they're 18 and they're not really sure what to do, is to go out and start working in a vocational or technical environment, learn more about the robotics, the machines that are doing these things, learn how to work on them. That's one aspect. The other thing is we are starting to see a lack of people that are creative and artistic and that understand user experience and the psychology that's required around that. And I think that we should not steer the youth towards, oh, you should all be doing science and technical and mathematical jobs. I think we need to have that equal balance of people that understand it's important to be more empathetic, and you know, because tech teams, they lack empathy a lot of times, and so if you're a person that can understand technology and can speak the speak and understand the personalities that are involved in it, but then be a psychologist or be a workplace psychologist or something, I think those things are equally important. I don't think we should all just go to sciences and math just because AI is a big thing right now, because we still need the full breadth of human intelligence to keep society happy and keep it growing in the right way.
Great. So I've got one final question for you, slightly different. Do you have a favorite film or a TV show or something that has portrayed AI in a way that you've really enjoyed?
I actually think that maybe it's a little bit different, but I think Stephen Hawking just passed away. It's so sad, but Theory of Everything, I think it's one of my favorite films because it talks about when you're trying to do new things and hard things, that a lot of times people are going to discount your ideas, and sometimes you're going to be wrong, but you take those risks, and when you are right, it pays off not just for you but for the entire society. And I think that, to me, he was so inspirational. I think he's inspired a lot of people that are in the AI space at Cambridge, and they have been inspired by him to also act ethically. And because Cambridge has such a foundation in AI, that while it's not probably it's not a robot maybe, right? So it doesn't have the normal picture of AI. But what Hawking did is he thought differently, he thought bigger, and he thought how it applied in society and why it might be important. And that is the thing what we all need to be doing more of. And so to me, it is one of my favorite movies.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you. Angela, thank you so much for sharing all of this expertise. I will make sure that everybody has your contact details. Obviously, that if they're listening back at a point where they'll be able to see your contact details on the slides anyway, but I'll follow up with everybody and share this information. So I just want to say thank you again for sharing your time and your knowledge. This has been super helpful. So yes, a big thank you from WeConnect to you and to the ThisWay Global team for talking with us today. That's fantastic. Thank you.
I'm happy to do it. I really appreciate the opportunity, Maggie. Thank you. And yes, please do feel free to reach out to me, and I will help in whatever way. And if I can't help you, I probably know someone that can.
Brilliant. Thank you, Angela. That's fantastic.
All right. Thank you.